Hello everyone and welcome into our latest live broadcast. My name is Carey Holzman and where is my video? There it is right there. Welcome in. It's Sunday, the 16th of August 2026. And today, well, we're still waiting on some tech stuff to come in. It hasn't arrived yet. But every second Tuesday of the month, Microsoft updates the Windows installer. They embed or slipstream all of the previous updates into the installer, so you don't have to rerun Windows Update again after you've done a clean install and then download hours and hours of updates. Instead, you only have to download updates that have come out since they updated the installer. There's always going to be updates, but it's just a question of how long is this going to take. So I'm going to show you how we do that today as a reminder, and give you a few updates regarding the updater. And with that, I want to thank our friends over at VIP-URCDKEys because they provide me with the Windows and Office keys I need to sell in my business that are legit and competitively priced, so I can go up against competitors with an equivalent and aggressive competitive price point. Because look, customers shop around, they're not stupid. So for me, in order for me to maintain being competitive, I need to do that on the up and up. I can't cheat. I can't go and use stolen keys. You can get away with that for a little while, but it'll catch up to you. So it's not like if you don't plan on staying in business very long, you know, knock yourself out. But I'd like to keep my customers for decades, not just do one job. And you never quite know when one job turns into another one and another one and another one, and plus referrals, recommendations. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you know, you've been in business, well, in my case, since I think I started the business in '96. So that's 30 years I've been doing this on my own. And prior to that, in the professional world, in business, corporations, large companies like Intel, et cetera. And I was charging back not too long ago, certainly in the 90s, it was about $100 for a copy of Windows. And I would pick it up with the rest of my parts at my distributor. That's my cost. And then I found somebody else later on that was selling them for $40, and they were selling me bad keys constantly, and they'd apologize and replace them, but it was embarrassing to me to, you know, not have a system ready on time and not be able to deliver it because my Windows key won't activate. I tolerated that much longer than I should have. And then I decided, all right, I know they sell these keys online. Let me do some research. And I realized that most of them are all phony. They take your money. They don't respond. They ghost you. Sometimes the keys don't work. Sometimes, like I'd buy a Windows 10 key and I got Windows 10 for workstations. Yeah, there's a big difference when you put it on a network. Let me tell you, it's a whole bunch of different group policy settings. And again, I got called back for service for something that didn't work, and I had to invest my time to fix it, and I couldn't bill the client for that. They were already ticked off it didn't work to begin with, right? So I started researching and investing, right? I'd buy a product key, I'd test it, buy another product key somewhere else and test it, and they were all ripoffs, every single one of them, until I ran into the parent company to VIP-URCDKEys. And I tested them, and I said, uh-oh, this looks good. Tested them again, still good. Tested it with Microsoft Office, still good. After those three various tests, including holding on to a key for about 4 to 6 weeks before I used it to make sure it would activate for the first time, perfect. So I said, hey, you know, let me tell you my situation, and long story short, you guys can now get the same price I get from a reputable seller online selling legitimate Windows and Office product keys that also supports them for up to 6 months after the sale. If you have any problems, they have a live chat. If you look underneath any of my videos, like I'll show you this video right here, if you look underneath the title and underneath my name on the left side, you see that first gray box that the mouse is on? Click the More button, and that'll open up the video notes that has all the links for everything we're talking about in that particular video. And right in those links are the VIP-URCDKEY links. You don't have to use those links if you don't want to. They're just there for your convenience. They're not commission-based links. So here I'm selecting Windows 11 Pro. Be aware, because they're being sold out of Hong Kong, the exchange rate between the country you're in and Hong Kong can fluctuate at any time, but it shouldn't be much difference from what I'm showing here on the screen. When you go to buy it, you have to create an account if you don't already have one. That's free. Just use, whatever email address you want to use. Put my name in the promotion code area, Carey, C-A-R-E-Y, and you'll get an additional 25% off. See that price just dropped? Once you put the product in the cart, if you want to save the money, save it. If you don't. Submit your order, and then it'll ask you how you want to pay. And all of the standard payment processes are there. And if you have any difficulty making a payment, well, let me rephrase. The next screen after you select your payment will be the standard screen for that payment method, the same as any other website. Once you're done making your payment, within about 2 minutes, you're going to get an email receipt to the email account that you selected in your sign up. That's going to contain your download link for the product if you need it. Like I always provide my own product. I get it from Microsoft, but they're going to give you a link that gets it from Microsoft anyway if you don't have it. Of course, it's your receipt with your order number, which you will need if you need any support, because they don't just support anybody. They only support their customers. And how do they know if you're a customer or a scammer? You'll have an order number. And finally, it contains your activation key and instructions. If you get stuck anywhere along the way, their support is there day or night, 24/7. Just chat to them right through the website. It doesn't matter when you order. Within about 2 minutes, you'll get that email. So you don't have to wait like I used to have to wait back in the day. And then on top of that, if you still have any problems down the line, reach out to them. If you're not getting what you feel is the satisfaction you were looking for, reach out to me personally. Tell me about it. If I find that I'm endorsing a vendor that is mistreating my viewers, they won't be a vendor here very long. But in the rare occurrence where somebody has emailed me, it's always been a misunderstanding. And so I will make it right no matter what. And should I find that a lot of people are having misunderstandings, we may stop offering it altogether. But the good news is we've been doing this for a few years with them, and we've very rarely had a problem. And the problems we've had have been very easily solved, especially if it gets to the point where you're getting angry. Just reach out to me in our email address. We always put the email address up on the screen towards the end of the show. And you're all welcome to email us at any time. We'll do whatever we can to help. And when it comes to these Windows and Office keys, I will make it right. The buck stops with me. And you're either going to get an activation that works, or you're going to get your money back out of my own pocket if that's what it takes. So I don't know any other content creators that give this kind of a guarantee. And the reason I'm doing it is because you have to understand the severity of consequences that affect me if this were to happen to me and my customers. Because my customers just know they're getting it from me. They don't know where I buy motherboards and cases and RAM and storage. They don't know, they don't care. If they did, why would they need me? And then when I sell it, I'm expected to warranty it. Right? I just gave you all this money, you gave me a computer, now I'm having a problem. That's my job. That's what I've been doing for over 30 years. I'm extending the benefits of my work in my industry just to my viewers. Nobody else knows this. I don't promote it to my competitors. All righty. Let's say hello to everybody joining us in the chat today. I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. I see Abdul Azim Patel joins us, and Abdul sent us a very generous Amazon gift card yesterday. Thank you, Abdul. Very kind of you. I did send a response, so I don't know if you didn't get the email, but thank you very much. It was very kind of you, and we certainly appreciate that. It's rare that we see very many of our audience, percentage-wise, contribute gift cards, especially right now. The economy is really tight for a lot of people, so it just means the world to us. So thank you so much. And of course, our friend Buster, who always sends an Amazon gift card. Thank you as always to our friend Buster in Edinburgh. And joining us in the chat, a lot of folks in green. All those folks you see in green are all monthly members. They pay YouTube. YouTube takes a big old piece of it, but nonetheless, they're supporting us here, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Let's start off by saying hello to everyone joining us in our live chat. This is not television. This is YouTube. And YouTube is intended to be interactive, even though so few creators use it that way. You may have forgotten, if you're new here, that YouTube is supposed to be two ways. And otherwise, we could just be on television. If you're watching this live, if it's Sunday, the 16th of August, 2026, and you're watching this live, and you're seeing that chat room off to the side moving around, hop in and say hello. It's so much more fun if you participate than if you just stand on the sidelines watching. And you'll make new friends, and we love to have you here. Speaking of which, let's say hello to a few of our friends in there right now. Sean Skinner says hello, and John Lewis says hello. We are broadcasting in 4K around the planet live. Everything is unrehearsed, unscripted in one take. So this is what it's like working as a computer technician if you were to turn cameras on, unedited and live, and see how computer techs handle difficulties and obstacles. Because if we don't handle them, we don't get paid. Luke Greenia says hello from Vermont. And of course, Mara, our channel administrator, says hello. She's the one that generates and creates our thumbnails. I shouldn't say the word generate. Some people are getting the idea that she's not actually making them. And she spends a lot of time on them. So you can imagine how hurtful that is to say, literally, you didn't make this. Yeah. Can you imagine? Anyway, David Herzog says hello. Eddie Casanova joins us. There's Eugene Eldago saying hello. Andy and Eugene, I think, would get along great because they're both mini PC fanatics. Eugene recently upgraded his stable of mini PCs, and he's been sharing some stories with us that I'm telling you, Andy W6AD joining us in the chat, you should reach out to Eugene and ask him what he bought and what he thinks of it, because you guys, I think, are going to hit it off. If you haven't already discussed it, well, I wasn't paying attention in previous videos. Ben Laird says hello from Scotland, and David Graham joins us. Richard DeFries, Jim Kenny, who also says hello to the cat, the stray cat that moved in and won't leave. Luckily, she's a nice cat. Otherwise, just kick her right to the curb. Let's see. Scrolling through the chat. Have I missed hellos? Andrew says hello. Arnold Albert says hello. Westside Lord says hello. Andrew with a £2 contribution in Super Chat. Thank you, Andrew. Or should I say cheers, mate? That sounds natural. Roteva says hello from Missouri. And Al LY2CX says hello. Paul Vircher joins us. Tech Smart Computer says hello. Sean Skinner renews membership, now a member for 10 months. Thank you, Sean. He says, Carey, you rock. Rock on, Sean. Turning into Bill and Ted. Bike Man says hello. Uzi joins us. Bill Holmes says happy Sunday. Gary Tatum says hello. Stephen Detroit joining us from South Africa. Essential Working Too Hard, now a member for 35 months. Thank you. He says, hiya, everyone. Uzi says the link in the description doesn't work. Well, there's about 17 or 18 or 20 links in the description. I do ask you guys, there is a delay between when I talk and when you hear me. I will shift subjects frequently. I do encourage you to talk to me, but to do so, I need to know what specific thing you're referencing, because we're going to cover about 4 dozen different things. And I don't know which of those 4 dozen things you're talking about. So far, what I know is you have a link problem that's in the video description, of which there are about 2 dozen links, and you haven't told me. You don't have to copy the link. Just tell me the .com. Which one is it? And then we can check it. If there's a typo or if we've made a mistake, we'll correct it. And we certainly appreciate you bringing it to our attention. We just don't know what it is yet, because you need to be very specific, and that will help us to be on the same page. Barry Klein says hello, says it's a nice cool 69 degrees Fahrenheit in Pennsylvania and raining. Philip Jones joins us, and Gary Tatum offers to help Uzi in the chat room as well. Thank you, Gary. Andy Kane says hello from Ireland. Victor Torres joining us, and Anderson says hello. Supreme Nerd says hello. Brian Weber joining us. Stephen Detroit said, I worked on a laptop and the owner couldn't understand why his laptop was slow. And I told him it's because he hasn't turned it on in 2 months and he was downloading and installing updates in the background. Well, that'll do it. Live Windows training with Doug Betts. There's the man, the myth, the legend joining us in the chat. Hi, Doug. How are you, my friend? Doug does a very similar thing where he works directly with customers on remote access oftentimes. On Saturdays, he broadcasts live. I think it's from like 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time. Correct me if I'm wrong. And interacts with the chat room, and very much so, as much as I do, if not more. So, brothers from other mothers. Always good to see you. And 3D Everything says hello. Badgerland says hello. Victor says, I downloaded the new images for Windows in English and Spanish last night. I still need to update my flash drives. Hey, there's Rick Lakes from Minnesota, and Pixelbyte joins us from Greece. Aaron Werner says hello from, says Jax, Florida. Jacksonville? And I think, I hope I acknowledged everybody. I hate to feel, I want you to feel heard, all right? I want you to feel seen. If I've missed you, just say, hey, you missed me. Let me know. I'm not doing it on purpose. And welcome in. Hey, there's Anthony Remus joining us from Remus Computer Solutions out in Las Vegas. Anthony builds some pretty high-end custom Threadripper overclocked monster computers that require a lot of detail kind of work, and always good to see another brother. I think we're having a family reunion today. All right, so here's the deal. As you probably know, Microsoft releases updates to Windows on the second Tuesday of every month. What Microsoft started to do is they started to update the updater itself, or update the software, the installing software. They never did this before. Very rarely. They never did it on a regular schedule. So what used to happen not so long ago, way back to 2025, when you downloaded the installer for Windows 11, then you got all of the updates current to the day you downloaded the installer, or to the day the installer was created by Microsoft, not the day you grabbed it. They could have made it 3 months earlier. Then you do a clean install of Windows 11 or Windows 10. In this case, we're just talking about Windows 11. Let's not muddy the waters. And once you get Windows installed, what's the first thing I do? I go to Windows Updates. So if I downloaded the installer in October when it was released for 25H2, then I installed it all year. I installed it November, December, January, February. I got computers on the bench, and the installer is getting older and older because nobody's updating it. And every second Tuesday of the month, updates are coming out. So after 6 months, I'm missing 6 months of second Tuesday's updates, each one piling on the next. meaning it's taking longer and longer after I install Windows to download all those updates and install them. Now, I'm working on a lot of computers here. I'm not just doing it one for my house, right? I have one on the bench, and then the next one goes on the bench. And around the wheel goes, and I'm downloading the same updates over and over and over again. Somebody finally pulled their head out at Microsoft and said, you know, we could just put the updates in the installer. Shortly after we released them on the second Tuesday of the month. And what's been happening is by the following Thursday, just 2 days later, the installer's updated. But Microsoft doesn't tell the public they're doing this. It's secret. Why is it a secret? I don't know, because they're not being transparent. Why are they not being transparent? When you figure that out, let me know. Okay, because it doesn't make any sense. They're doing all this work and they're not telling anybody. So that's why I'm making the video, to tell you. So I have been saying, when you download the installer, the media creation tool from Microsoft, always download the latest one, because it's hard-coded to download whatever ISO was programmed into it at the time. So if you kept your media installer from last year, you're going to get a last year's version of Windows, not the current one. Well, somebody wrote into me and said, you know, they're not doing that anymore. Oh, there's something else they didn't tell anybody. He said, we've been testing it, and we've been using the same media creation software for 3 months now, and it is getting the latest installer. It doesn't tell you, but that's what it's doing. They also said it's also pretty, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's pretty unwise to keep the media installer when you're done with it, because one, it's easy to replace it, and two, if Microsoft very quietly stops allowing that to work without getting the latest media installer, how are you going to know? Until after you've invested the time and made the image, you go to install it, so confident like the months before that you're always getting the latest, only to find out you're not getting the latest anymore, and Microsoft didn't say, we changed it again. And they are prone to change it on a whim for reasons that are unbeknownst to us, which is exactly what they did. Okay. So currently, you don't have to download the latest media installer if you've got one within this year. It looks like it's automatically grabbing the latest installation files. However, the media creation tool is a very teeny tiny file. It's free. There's no reason for you to store it and waste your hard drive space, only to find out at some point you're going to get an old version. I promise it's just a matter of time. So I'm still going to keep the same advice. Just download the media installer when you need it. Use it and then erase it. Let Microsoft be your library. Let Microsoft maintain the library. Let Microsoft back it up. You don't need any of that stuff. Now, this is the machine we have been using since February, since this whole process I was made aware of changed. And I'm so eager to get those updates. You know how long it took to download and install this last Tuesday's update? You were there. It's happened to you. What if I could already get it installed right in Windows when I install Windows? Wouldn't that save me some time? I'm still installing Windows the same amount of time. The amount of time it takes me to install Windows doesn't change. It's just that when I'm done now, all the updates that have come out all the way up until the second Tuesday of this month, August, they're already in here. So how do we do it? Well, I'm just going to keep recycling my installer drive by erasing it, writing on top of it, and good riddance to all those past versions. Let's fire this up. Let's see, we'll turn that on, turn this on, and we have a download directory here that'll show you all the previous downloads of the ISO images, and you'll look at their file sizes. And one of the easy, quick ways you can tell it's been updated is the file size gets bigger. Rocket science, I know. The second way is you can run a DISM command, and you can prod or poke the ISO file to see what version of Windows is hiding within, because Microsoft does not disclose it. And again, no idea why. You'd think the installer would tell you what version of Windows you're getting. It says, yeah, you're getting Windows 11 25H2. Which one? So again, they're really dropping the ball here, or they're doing it on purpose. I don't know. But it's easy enough when you know to just check it yourself. And I would still check it even if they told me, because they could be lying. They could be incompetent. You just got to blindly believe them. So if you learn something about me, if there's anything to know about me, it's that trust it with your own eyes. It's all well and good that somebody says something is, but you should verify. And if somebody is consistently telling you things that you verify to be true, you might relax a little bit and say, well, since it came from this person, I don't need to double check it now. I've double checked this person many times. That person could still make a mistake, or that company can still make a mistake. But, you know, it's really up to you. So first of all, we'll take our current version of Windows, and I'm going to plug it in back here. And we're going to see what version of Windows we have on this flash drive already. Now, let's just jump over here real quick. Let me get to that input. Is that working? Hello, computer. Hold on a minute. Do I not have my cable plugged in all the way? Checking my cable. There it is. Okay. So, let me grab this keyboard and this mouse over here. And if we right-click on the Start menu, right here, and go to System, and we scroll down, we're going to get a build number for Windows. We know it's version 25H2. We don't know the build. So the build is 26200.9168. That's a currently updated Windows 11 with all the latest Microsoft updates. That's what our build is, 9168. What's on the flash drive? If I have to reinstall Windows 11 from scratch using the installer I created last month, you know I'm not going to get 9168. I'm going to get a number lower than that. How much lower? Depends on when's the last time you made an installer. So what I'm going to do is go to the Explorer, go to the D drive, which I should have over here, and you'll see we've got all these files. These are your Windows installer files. This is the flash drive. So I'm going to go to my downloads directory where we have a history of downloading these versions of Windows. Notice the file size gets bigger and bigger each time. And I am renaming these to include the build number. By default, when you download Windows using the media creation tool as an ISO, it just calls it Windows. Since I don't know what version of Windows until I download it, I wait till I download it, then I poke at it to see what version's inside of it, and then I rename it for my own sanity. Okay. So you see how I've kept the media creation tool from last time? This is from last month, almost nearly exactly a month ago. I would traditionally tell you delete this, you don't need it. But it turns out if you do want to keep it, you're okay for now until they change it again and they don't tell you. Since I don't trust that, I'm going to just go ahead and delete it. Now you can see these are all separated each month because each month they're updating it, finally. So how do we check it? Well, you see here it says determine Windows 11 ISO version, and it's a text file. And we'll make sure we copy and paste this into the video notes. And what we want to do is we just want to poke at that. So DISM, get the Windows image info, that's what a WIM is. And then we got to point to where the image file is. So it's on, like in this case, it's pointing to the E drive, but I think for us it's isn't it the D drive, my flash drive? Let's see. What did I just do? Let's go back. Here we go. Yeah, it's the D drive. So I want to know the file inside of this, the Windows image, what version of Windows image is it? Remember, we want that 9168 or something in the 9100 range, I would hope. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. Actually, let's change this to D right now, because I know it's my D drive. I want to copy, edit, copy. And then, do we need to run this as administrator? I don't know, but let's try running as administrator. Yes. And just Control V to paste that command and hit enter. And this tells us This is build number 8873. 8873. That matches what I wrote, what I renamed the file to back in, it was July 19th. It was 8873. So that's the version that's on this flash drive. Now I want the new version. You with me? So we're going to go to, let's close all that. We're going to go to our browser and we're going to type download Windows 11. I mean, it's really easy. And then right here, the first link comes from the actual source. Don't download it from anywhere else. This is perfectly legal. Microsoft wants you to use it. So we click on that and you'll see this website. It goes around and, you know, That's not the site I want. We'll scroll down a little bit and it says software download. It's still coming from Microsoft. Well, this one says Australia. Why am I not? Hold on a second. What is it? This one? Download Windows 11? Is that the one I want? That's the one I want. Now, you could make this a little easier if you wanted to just go right to this link, but it depends on which country you're in, right? I'm in the US. I want the US version. It only tells us the version of Windows, not the build. So that doesn't do us any good. It says, do you want to use the Windows 11 installation assistant? I don't know. Do I want to create Windows 11 installation media? I do. Do I want to download Windows 11 ISO? Well, we're going to download the ISO from here. Yeah, but isn't that, why not just download it? This is a larger image that is only updated twice a year. So this is old. I don't want it. You might need this for like doing installs on virtual machines and stuff like that. This file is almost a gig larger. Avoid it if you can. So we're going to create Windows 11 installation media and hit download now. And that's a quick down. You see how fast that is? For you to make a folder and save this so you can just reuse it again takes you longer than just downloading it when you need it. Now we're going to open it up. And to avoid any confusion, I'm going to close all the background, all right? Because this is all we need to see. You've got a license agreement. Agree to it because you don't have a choice if you want Windows 11 media. And it's going to ask you what language and what version of Windows, and whether or not you choose to check this box is up to you. I'm going to uncheck it just because I can install this on thousands of different computers, makes and models, and not have to worry about unique settings for this PC, although it probably wouldn't make any difference. Then I'm going to hit next. It says, do we want to make a flash drive or do we want to make an ISO file? We do not want to make the flash drive with Microsoft because they'll force the online account. We want the ISO file so we can make the flash drive with another free utility called Rufus that is also updated regularly, and another reason you don't want to keep it. It's very tiny. Just grab it when you need it. You always don't waste your time making a fancy meal and then using an expired ingredient that ruins the whole meal. I want the latest ISO file from the latest Windows Media creation tool using the latest version of Rufus. For the same reason, I want all my ingredients in the meal I'm preparing to all be fresh. Okay? You ruin the whole meal if you're too lazy. You go, I'm sure these eggs from last year are fine. All right, then hit next. And it wants to name it windows.iso. That's very helpful, isn't it? We already have a windows.iso from back around March. So we'll just call this one Windows, Windows, I don't know, 1, just because. And hit save. It says, all right, I'm getting a few things ready. It's going to download that 6 gig ISO file. Now, depending on how fast your internet is, this could take a minute or it could take a few minutes. I have a really fast internet connection here, so that helps when we're doing live videos, and I don't have the ability to edit and fast forward during a live video. This shows you in real time, in my real world example, of exactly how this process is done and how much time it takes. As soon as it's finished here, It needs to verify the download came through without corruption. And now it's creating the ISO file onto our hard drive. Okay, so it's taking the downloaded file and it's converting it right now into an ISO. And again, depending on the speed of your computer, this could take less than a minute. It could take 5 minutes. It depends how your computer is equipped with how much RAM and processor, your storage speed. So once again, we've got some pretty nice equipment here. And this is an example that's probably pretty close to what you'll be using if your computer's even somewhat modern. But either way, it's done when it's done. And we can't do anything until then. It says it's done, and so we hit finish, and it's got a little cleanup it does here that just says it may take a few minutes. That clearly wasn't even a single minute. Now, if I go to my download directory, you'll see we have that Windows 1 ISO file, and it's a little bigger than this last one. You see it, this last one is 6771, this one's 6773. It's a little bit bigger. If they were the same size, they're probably the same version. To double check it, if I double click on the ISO file, double click it, Windows mounts it into a virtual DVD drive. This one's labeled F. So I'm going to go back to command, and I'm going to run that same command to check the version. Run as administrator. And then can I control V? Is it still there? Yep. And I'm going to change that letter D because my flash drive is still in there. Backspace, make that a letter F. And then hit enter. Now it says our build number. Remember what it was before? Now it says that installer is 9168. So 26200 9168. That matches what we have after we sit and wait for all the downloads from Windows Update to download and install. That's what your end result is after waiting all that time, 9168. So now we can have 9168 right out of the gate on a clean install. See what I'm getting at? See how cool that is? All right, all well and good. So now what do? We're going to close everything out. I want to avoid confusion. So I'm going to, this drive F here, that's virtual. It doesn't really exist. So I'm going to right click and eject it. Now it's gone. It's unloaded from memory. This is the flash drive. D and E are the partitions on the flash drive. And then this is, of course, our C drive. So now we're going to download Rufus. Now I have Rufus from before, but how do I know if Rufus has been updated unless I go and get it? It's free, it's teeny tiny, and Rufus is based out of Ireland. R-U-F-U-S, and if you want, you can just add .ie. That's the extension for Ireland. Otherwise, you can just search for it. Google should pull it up as your first link. We scroll down and look for the download. Here it says download, and there's several versions. I like to download the portable version. That's with the letter P. You can see it's the same size and everything as the, so it really doesn't matter. I'll download the first one there. Look how fast that downloaded. Click open file. Yes. And now let's close everything out. We've got everything we need. That's how easy it was. So it says, first of all, what's the ISO image that we want to create our bootable Windows installer from? Well, we just downloaded it, but it doesn't know that. We have to tell select, and this one right here, it's got today's date if you're not sure, and then click open. And it says you're going to put it on the D drive because that's what it looks like you want to do. Yep, just hit start. Now, it notices this is a Windows 11 installer. Rufus is intelligent, and it goes, hey, I just noticed you're trying to make a Windows installer. Would you like to override some settings that Microsoft has defaulted to? There's only 2 settings I will override. If you override anything else, well, my mother used to say to me, if you go climbing that tree and you fall out of it and break your leg, don't you come running to me. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what I do as a professional. And I don't play around with any of this. Except I remove the requirement for a Microsoft Online account, so you don't have to do that whole Shift F10, bypass that own nonsense. Also, when you install Windows 11 Home, it may default by turning drive encryption on, which is a type of BitLocker. It might not. This will make sure it never happens. Everything else, you're on your own. All right? I'm not endorsing it. I'm not supporting it. And if you want to do it, good luck to you. This is 100% safe every single time, and I can guarantee it. Anything else you pick, I can't make that guarantee. I click OK. It says, hey, you're about to erase that flash drive. If there's anything on it, it's going to be destroyed. Yeah, that's what I want. Okay, so here it says, here's the progress right down here. And it's making that flash drive right now. And it's pretty quick. Now, I do have a fast flash drive. It is plugged into a fast USB port. So the amount of time that this is going to take may vary depending on your flash drive, the USB port you use, and of course, how your computer is equipped with resources. So it's not all equal, okay? If you've got a higher horsepower car than me, you could probably tow more than I can tow. You might be able to get to 60 faster than I can get to 60, right? These flash drives cost more money. Computers with high-speed USB ports cost more money. Cars with higher horsepower cost more money. So just because somebody else can get to 60 in 2.3 seconds doesn't mean you're being reasonable to expect your Prius to do it or your Chevy Spark. They're not designed for that. So understand that what I'm showing you here is real, it's live, this is real time, and under these conditions, this is how long it takes. If you're under different conditions, it may take a little bit longer, but it should still look exactly the same. You should get every screen the same. Everything I click on, if you follow through, you will get the exact same results every single time. If you do not follow my steps, do not expect to get the same end result. Common sense, maybe? But if you do get stuck, you're always welcome to email us. Again, we'll put the email address up here towards the end of the video. Now, once this flash drive is done, we're going to double check it one more time with that DISM command and verify that we have 9168. And I'm going to rename the file on my hard drive to 9168. So when we follow up with this next month or 6 months from now, you can look back on it and go, oh, I remember that. And you can watch the file size month after month grow a little bit each time. If it ever goes the other way and shrinks, that's going to be a cold day in hell. That's all I can tell you. So it's right now, it's writing that ISO image onto the flash drive. So the flash drive will be bootable. And it's done. So you see it says ready, and I hit close. Now, one of the things I will do, if we come back over here to camera 1 for a second, I'm going to take the flash drive and unplug it. And then I'm going to just plug it back in again. I want to make sure the system refreshes, the File Explorer cache refreshes on that. And then I'm going to go back over here. So let's get back over to HDMI 3. And once again, we'll go to Command and run as administrator. Yes. And that was Drive D before. Is it still Drive D? I forgot to look. Yeah, now it's showing Drive E. All right, whatever. So Control V that command again. Did I lose it? There it is. And change that D to... Hold on a second. I got to hit the right keys. Change that Drive D to represent our current drive letter right there. Enter. And I do it wrong. Enter. What am I missing? Oh, one more time. I had a letter V when I hit Control V. Apparently I hit the letter V. So do again. Keep repeating it until you get it right. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Now let's see. Okay, now it tells us our build number 9168. Right? That's what we want. Exit. I am not typing very well today. What's new? Here's what I'm going to do to keep myself from going insane. Too late. I'm going to go to our downloads and I'm going to delete. See, Rufus is the same version. It's 415, so it wasn't updated, but how else would I know? So I'll get rid of the duplicate. I don't want to keep the media creation tool. I don't want the temptation. I'll just download it again if I need it. And this is exactly the same name. So I'll just copy, Control C, and then Control V and change 8873 to 9168. Bingo, bango, done. We now have a Windows installer that's updated with all of the Windows updates throughout this entire year for 25H2 already slipstreamed in. We didn't have to waste our time and do it by hand. That would take longer for me anyway than just downloading the updates on each computer like I've been doing. So as you can imagine, every time that following Thursday after the second Tuesday happens each month, I'm super excited to update my installer, because what's going to happen is more updates are going to come out between now and the second Tuesday of next month. And so all the installs I use this for up until that update happens will accrue more updates the closer we get, the further we get from this point in time right now. So we're at the 16th of August. Probably by next week, there's going to be more updates to install, but at least I won't have to install any of the updates prior to this. And then the week after that, there may be some more updates sometimes. And then we'll be the second Tuesday of September, and there'll be a whole new series of updates for sure, at the very least, by the second Tuesday of next month. And then by that following Thursday, I'll be reminding you to update your media installer. It only takes a minute. It's really fast, and once it's done, you know, if you want to, you don't have to update your installer. You can download last month's updates after you've installed Windows and just wait. You're welcome to do that. But again, last month, this last Tuesday, I shouldn't say last month, this last Tuesday's update, it took a while. Now it's already in the installer, so we're just getting updates in the future as they come out. All the updates in the past, they're already on here. Done and done. Any questions? Also, completely legal, completely free. Microsoft wants you to do this. Using Rufus isn't violating any policy. If you don't want to use Rufus, you can just skip that step and use the media creation tool and put it right on your flash drive and skip the other step. The problem is, if you install Windows 11 Home, it might be turning on encryption by default, and it's going to want you to create a Microsoft account, and you're going to have to work around that by hand. That's already in here. I'm installing Windows at least twice a day on various computers. Minimum twice a day, every day, 7 days a week. I am installing Windows. Do you know how repetitive and boring it is? Yeah, we're watching the video, Carey. We can see. Well, imagine repeating that over and over and over and over and over. So this is going to save me a ton of time. That's why I'm so excited about it. All righty, let me move this keyboard over here, move that one over here. Edward Bass joins us and says hello. There's Scott Messerschmidt joining us in the chat room. And let me scroll up a little bit here. Did we ever find out what link wasn't working that Uzi was referring to, what it's for? Doug Betts says yes, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. every Saturday Pacific time is when he goes live, and again, very much interacts like I do with his audience. Lagaspa says hello. Anthony says, I tend to update my media quarterly, but if I'm not mistaken, there have been months where it wasn't updated. Microsoft didn't even update it quarterly. I don't know where you're getting your installer from, but they only updated it whenever there was a like a 26H2 or 25H2, 24H2. That was it, and then you didn't get another update until 27H2, right, till the next one. If there was an update, it was kind of random and they didn't announce it. You just had to keep an eye open for it, which I couldn't be bothered. So this way, now I'm only using the media creation tool in only since about February. Microsoft has changed their policy and it's updated monthly now. If you use the media creation tool, that's the only way it's updated. Now, if you want to go to the UUP and do it all yourself, of course, you could have always done that. Andy says with pride, Rufus is from Ireland. That is correct, Andy. Anthony from Remus Computer Solutions wants to know, Carey, on client builds, do you create an account or ship with out-of-box experience? I'm curious because you mentioned the install, you install Windows so free. Every one of my computers that I sell, I go through the out-of-box experience for the customer. That's a part of the service. I want the customer to be able to plug in the computer and start using it. They not only have drivers on the computer, they have the latest drivers. They not only have Windows on the computer, they have the latest Windows. They not only have the nagging screens for like, you haven't finished setting up your computer, blah, blah, blah. All that's already nipped in the bud before I ship. Anything that I change, the customer can undo. I take off all the Xbox stuff, but they could always put it back on easy peasy if they want to. If they want to go through the out-of-box experience, they can do that. They can reset it and go back if they want to. I've never had that request ever in the history of my company. They love being able to plug in the computer and immediately start installing their software, setting up their printers, their email, right? Because that takes long enough. And they're already having anxiety over, oh, this is going to take so long. And I'm not selling to random people, right? I'm selling to customers I support. So they don't need to go through the out-of-box experience. But if I'm selling, like Dell is selling computers to millions of people every month, you can't do that. It's a violation of Microsoft's policy. You wouldn't want to because your support lines would ring off the hook. But my customers know what to expect, and so that's why I do it that way. It saves everybody time, and that's partly what they're paying me for. Alma Dixon says, I love your channel, by the way. Well, we love you. Thank you. Very kind words. Can you believe it? Somebody on the internet had something nice to say. You're a liar. See? Anthony says, thanks. Nice to know. Yeah, it's just a choice I make, you know. Tony saying hello to somebody named Gary. I think he means Carey, but that's okay. I've been called worse. Alma says, will I create an unattended XML file? Absolutely never, ever, ever will I do that. There's a point of laziness that you're working harder than you have to. The reason I don't create the unattended XML file is because every computer I work on is different. You don't see me work on the same computer twice, or it is very rare. I need to be able to customize the install based on the individual customer request, which could happen. Customer might say, I want this to set up a certain way. I also don't know from one computer to another what individual changes might be required. If I was just doing the same computer over and over, I could just make a system image and I wouldn't have to do an install at all. But to each their own, depending on what it is your job entails. My job entails clean installs of Windows and doing everything exactly the same so that when customers call for support, I'm not stuck going, well, which way did we do it on your computer? They're all done the same. But when it comes to like the unattended XML file, the choices that that individual customer may make don't have anything to do with me trying to then remember certain settings. As long as the Windows installer, it asks like 4 questions. It takes me somewhere around 8 seconds to answer all 4 questions. And it would take me probably a half hour, 20 minutes to write an XML file, test it, edit it, fix it, test it again. At that point, you're stepping over dollars to pick up dimes. at least in my scenario. So that's why I don't use it. It doesn't make any sense for me to use that or to invest any time configuring it and testing it. It's just faster. Just go through it, make the changes as needed, and rip through them. It's very quick. So I appreciate the question. So every computer also is going to use different drivers. So even after we get Windows 11 installed, on some computers, by hitting Windows Update, we get the drivers from Windows Update. And if it's an AMD computer, if there's still items missing in the device manager, in many cases, just going to AMD and downloading the AMD Adrenalin software, which has to be done regardless. Sometimes that's it. Your device manager's clean, everything's good to go. If you have something brand new and those drivers have not yet been distributed by Microsoft, then you need to install Windows, hit Windows Updates, get any drivers if applicable, as well as any updates if applicable, and go to the manufacturer's website, go to their support section, download the drivers for that model and install them, and then check to make sure, like if you're getting AMD drivers, AMD chipset drivers, AMD graphics drivers, they're probably out of date. But at least you get the device manager corrected. Then go to the AMD website and download the drivers again, now that we know what they are, and make sure you get the latest version. That's all part of my service to my customers. There won't be an item in the device manager that has an outdated driver or a missing driver, or they will not get the computer that way. I won't ship it that way. So not only do they have the drivers, they have the latest version. Sometimes on some hardware, when we install Windows 11 and restart, we can't get online because it doesn't find the network card by automatically. And so for that reason, because I never know when it's going to happen, every computer I work on is different. I go on Amazon, I buy one of these USB to Ethernet adapters. I've seen them as cheap as $9. I probably paid $15 or $16 for it. The drivers for this are built into Windows 10 and 11 automatically. So all I need to do is temporarily plug my internet in here, plug this into any USB port, give it a second, it initializes. Then I go to Windows Update. That will almost always grab the driver for the network that's built in. And then when the updates are done, restart, and then I can unplug this and plug the cable back in and do the rest of the drivers. This little tool never goes bad. It's compatible 100% with all Windows computers. And it's just a great tool to have. It saves my bacon multiple times a week. It turns a dilemma into a non-existent activity. It's like, it's practically not. It's so effortless. Plug it in, hook it up, give it a second, go to Windows Update. Even if we don't get the driver for the network card on Windows Update, we go to the manufacturer's website regardless. If needed, we'll get the driver from there and install it. This is just, we don't need this for more than about 10 minutes and we're done with it. These are on Amazon. There's lots of different models and manufacturers to choose from, USB-C, USB-A, some with an adapter, so you can go USB-C or A. Not every computer has USB-C, but every computer does have USB-A, so I just get the A version. You can get these in 1 gigabit, 2.5 gig, 5 gig, 10 gig. 1 gig's all you need. The 5 and 10 gig requires a driver that you would need to load, ironically, which is the reason I'm using it. Those are good for upgrading a network on a laptop or something, not necessarily for my solution. I don't need to upgrade a laptop to a 5 or 10 gig network, but if you buy the 1 gigabit one or the 2.5, it should just plug in and automatically be detected. Okay? You buy it once, you use it for life, or at least until USB goes away. Anthony Remus says, yeah, he's in the same situation. He doesn't build the same computer over and over again. He might get an order where a customer wants 3 of the same, but then he might get another order where another customer wants 3 of the same, and they're nothing alike. So, or a customer may just want 1, which is probably the most common. And then depending on what the customer needs, what the customer's budget is, it's going to be, look, when you go to Burger King and you order a burger, there's how many different ways to build that burger? You want cheese, you don't want cheese. Lettuce, tomato, onion, ketchup, mustard, right? Lettuce wrap, you want a bun. I don't know what the variables are and the combinations thereof. So to say we're all going to make the burgers the same, and then when you don't want cheese, we'll just take the cheese off, I won't eat that because it still has remnants of cheese flavor soaked into it. It disgusts me. If I don't want the ketchup or the mustard, you're just going to scrape that off while it's all soaked into your spongy bun? Yum. That's what I asked for. Can I have remnants of ketchup and mustard that I can't stand soaked into my bun? No. That's lazy, and there's no pride or integrity in anybody that cooks like that. That's their choice. My choice would be not to eat there. I say, make me a burger. I want it made without any of this stuff. And they go and they make it that way, the way I asked. Then I get it, and I don't have lingering flavors of things that were scraped off. Okay. If I wanted the lingering flavors, I'd probably want the item left on. If I don't want the item on, it's because I don't like it, I don't want it, I don't want to taste it. Well, in much the same way, when a customer orders a computer, there's a bunch of different variables: which motherboard, which RAM, which solid state drive, how many drives, how much RAM. Are we overclocking the RAM? Are we putting on XPS? Or are we, what version of Windows are we putting Windows on it? Which video card does it have? Which drivers do we use? What chipset drivers do we need? What networking does it have? Does it have Wi-Fi? What version of Wi-Fi and Bluetooth does it have? Does it have the latest BIOS? Folks like me, Anthony, Doug, this is what we do for a living, so our customers don't have to. If our customers did it, we'd partially be out of a job, at least partially, because that's part of the service that that comes with us doing the work. Is we don't want to have to get called back because we were being lazy and took no pride in our work and couldn't be bothered. That's going to be a callback. That's going to be an unhappy customer. Even if you make it right, the fact that the customer had to call you because you didn't deliver it right to begin with might be that's all it takes to lose that customer's confidence in you forever, and they may never return. So never mind the embarrassment, never mind the fact that you have to pay for your own time to fix it and make it right. You should have never let it out the door that way, because there could be consequences lingering after the fact. Even if you made that investment of time at your own cost to fix it, you still inconvenience the customer. And that's not what they paid you for. They could have inconvenienced themselves and saved the money. I could have screwed this up. The reason I hired you was so that wouldn't happen. So customers tend to be quite intolerant, especially if they've been waiting and anticipating and they're like, oh boy, finally here it comes, and it's not right. When I'm starving and I order that burger and I tell them I don't want cheese on it, and I'm sitting and I'm waiting and they finally call my order, I'm like, all right, finally I get to eat. And I grab the tray and I sit down at the table and I unwrap the burger and it's cheese on it. Walk back up to the counter. Hello, anybody? Hello, I'm at the counter. Finally, how can I help you? So yeah, I ordered this without cheese, and it's got cheese. If they're Gen Z, they just stare at you like this. And I go, yeah, so if you could just go ahead and remake this without cheese. Sometimes you get somebody nosy. Oh, are you allergic? That's such an inappropriate question. So I just say yes. Yeah, can't have the dairy. Oh, okay. If I say, well, I just don't like cheese, oh, we could just scrape it off then. Because you know that's the next thing that's coming. So no, I'm allergic. That's right. Yeah, it's none of your business. But I won't get into it. I just, really? Allergic? Sure, why not? Maybe just make it the way I asked you to make it, and don't worry if I'm allergic. Don't worry about why. It doesn't matter why. Maybe it's a personal preference. None of your business. Do your job. And you know, that's going to kind of sit with me a while. I may not want to, even if they say, okay, we apologize, they throw the burger out, they make another one. I go sit back down, I wait for them to call my number, I go, I get it, I check it, it's made correctly, I eat it. You think I'm going back there again anytime soon? I'm annoyed. How hard was it to leave the cheese off the burger? That's just not rocket science. Your cooks aren't paying attention. Nobody's paying attention. Yeah, you got my money. I did my part. All you had to do was do your part. Well, this is a very similar thing, but imagine instead of the price of a burger, it's the price of a computer. How much angrier the customer potentially gets. Because the money they spend and the level of anger they have at any sort of thing that should have been done correctly before you delivered it, for many customers these days, they do scale together. Anthony says, I almost feel bad that I ate a burger with cheese in front of you. I don't care what you eat. You can eat liver and onions for all I care. It doesn't bother me what you eat. I'm not quite sure you're getting this. I'm talking about what I want to eat. I'm not talking about what you want to eat. You eat whatever you want. You can go outside and have a spoonful of dirt. I don't care. I'm not having it. That's all I'm saying. Leonard Shepard wants to know what kind of or what brand of Ethernet cables do I like to use? Well, I am not loyal to any brand. Let me tell you that right now. There's not a brand on this planet I can think of that I'm loyal to. Maybe Coca-Cola or Levi, something like that. But as far as computers go, I don't care. I care about, is it made well and is it a good price? And can I get it today or, you know, soon? Or is it out of stock or I have to wait 2 weeks for it? So if I go to Amazon, let me open up Amazon, I'll show you how I do this. One of the things you'll notice are my Ethernet cables are super thin. This is like a piece of yarn. It's really, really thin. It's very flexible, lightweight. It's not the thick Ethernet cables of yesteryear. These do carry PoE just fine, and they're good for about 50 feet. So I will use these as every single time I get these. If I've got a customer that's still using the old school fat cables, I want to get rid of them if I have any excuse to, and these are cheap. They are more fragile, but nobody's messing with them. You know what I mean? Like, if you're somebody that's plugging cables in and out all the time, or you need shielded cabling, obviously this isn't going to be a good choice, but I don't do that. So let's jump over to Amazon. I'll show you what I'm looking for. So let's say I wanted to buy some more cables, and I want some category 6A cables to carry 10 gig Ethernet. So I want 10 gig Cat, oh, actually I don't have to say Cat to you. It's Cat 6A cable, thin. And then what length do I want? I want, see, it goes up to 50 feet. I want, let's just say the average is 5 feet, okay? Here is the slim Ethernet patch cable. These are 1 foot each. There's 24 in the package. They're less than $1 a piece. They're 71 cents each. I can't make them that cheap, and these cables are so fine and tiny, a human hand couldn't do it anyway. But what if I want longer cables? Well, there's 1 foot. Sometimes if you click on, like that's a sponsored link, you'll see options for 1/2 foot, 1.5 feet, 2 foot, 3 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot, 7 foot, 10 foot, all the way to 14 feet, and then different colors, right? Just on one link. If I go back, that's one seller. I don't even know who the brand is. Who is it? No idea, don't care. Here's one called Pink. I don't know. $34. This is a 24 pack of 7 foot cables that are Cat 6A. Let's click on it. Sometimes there's options for different colors and different lengths. Here's a 50 pack, so I'm sure the price per unit gets cheaper. These are the 5 footers. There's 6 other options, 7 foot, 35, 25, 20. You can go all the way to 50, I believe. Let's do 50-footer. That's a 50 pack. I could be wrong. Well, wait a minute. No, that's too thick. You can tell that's a standard thickness Ethernet cable. Once you go to the thin ones, man, I'm telling you. There we go. Monoprice is a great resource, by the way. I do like them. And here is a 50-foot thin cable, 10 gig. It's $17.42 with free shipping with Amazon Prime. And there's lots of other options. And sometimes colors, or you could do a single one, a 10-pack. See, on the 10-pack, yeah, it's still 50 feet. Watch it, because sometimes it'll change, and it'll say, oh, the 5-pack's only available in 5 feet, whatever. So be careful when you're making these selections. See, when I hit 1-pack, you see how it went to half a foot? I want 50 feet. And for whatever reason, instead of 1-pack, it switches to single. I don't know what's the difference between 1-pack and single. It doesn't have a partner? I don't know. But that's how I buy my cables. I don't care who makes them. I just look at the picture, I look at the color, and that's the one. You can visually see that is a very thin cable. And I have been slowly transitioning out. Anytime I discover I still have a fatter cable, it's usually a Cat 5e cable or Cat 5. Cat 5e? Anyway, I switch them out to Cat 6As anyway, just in case the customer or myself wants to upgrade in the future. I don't have to replace the cables later. It also makes my life a lot easier when I have to diagnose, let's say, a server room, and all the patch cables are these thicker, 1-foot cables. They're kind of heavy when you got a bunch of them like that, and they get all, sort of mixed up with each other. So I will just order a box, not a box, but a package of like 20 of them, and go over to my clients one weekend when they're closed and I'm not interfering with business, after hours, and I'll just one at a time take that cable out from the patch panel and the switch, put the thin cable on, throw the old cable on the floor, go all the way across until I'm done. I keep the spares there at the office in case they need to do something and I'm not there, and I take all the old ones and I chuck them into the recycle bin, and old technology goes along with the token ring cables right back to the smelter. So I feel good. Everything's happy, and we're good for a while. So that's where I source my cables from. I used to make them by myself, not anymore. Costs more money. Sometimes you have to make them a couple times until you get it right. The crimping tool, I think, was $100 back when I bought it. And you couldn't just buy a crimping tool at Fry's Electronics back then. You had to go to an industrial supplier like a company called Graybar. Anybody familiar with Graybar? That's where I had to buy boxes of 1,000-foot cables of Category 5 cable, and the crimping tool was very expensive. I still have the crimping tool and all the RJ45 ends in a box at Studio A somewhere in case, I don't know, we revert back and start de-evolving. I got a feeling I never need them again. But times move on, and it's old, obsolete tech for and yes, you can still use those old thick cables, but I don't. You can, okay? I won't. I refuse. I'm a little bit of a cable snob. Life is good. You're worth it. And they're not expensive. Ben Laird with a 20-pound super chat. Wow, thank you so much, Ben. Ben joins us from Scotland. Mahai in the chat says, my friend did not change the thermal paste on her PC for 8 or 9 years, and now she checks the temp of her i9 10th gen. 60 degrees Celsius idle, 100 degrees in games, and she cleaned the cooler. Is the paste the problem? You know what? It really shouldn't make a big difference. Sometimes when we go to change the thermal paste, which, by the way, just so you know, if you ever get a job as a professional computer technician in any corporation in America, any large company, you will never be changing thermal paste. You will be absolutely prohibited from doing that work. You could potentially lose your job. Now, part of the reason is because they don't generally keep computers around that long in corporate America. This is a consumer problem primarily. So if a consumer buys a computer, and let's rephrase, if a computer is made by a consumer, they may not have applied the thermal paste correctly. Sometimes they forget to take, or they don't know better, to take the little plastic off. So when you open it to check the state of the thermal paste, you might find out it was always wrong from the day it was built. With regards to thermal paste drying out, it's really not a thing. Like, yes, it dries out, but it works pretty well as the CPU gets hot. The thermal paste will start to become, the qualities of the paste itself will become, how can I explain this? If you were to take, like, let the computer get up to 100 C, 100 degrees Celsius, and then immediately shut it off and unplugged it and took the cooler off, you could probably wipe the paste off with a paper towel, because it's hot. So it's a little bit more viscous. But if you let the computer cool down for a day or whatever, a couple hours, and you take the cooler off, you might have to scrape at the thermal paste to get it off because it's hardened and cold. So thermal paste can make a difference, and I'll certainly welcome Anthony or other professionals to give us their opinions here. But in my opinion, the most thermal paste does for you is it'll buy you 3 degrees Celsius. So the question is, well, why is the computer running so hot? If they have a liquid cooler, it's probably not working anymore. Either the fluid inside has dried up or become clogged up or become infected with bacteria, or the pump has stopped working. If they have an air cooler, it was probably an inefficient air cooler from day one, and it's always been running that hot. In that case, you could buy a thermal assassin for $30 and fix the problem for $30, and that will include changing the thermal paste, because you don't want to carry over old thermal paste that's, residue on the CPU onto a brand new cooler. In that case, absolutely, you would replace the thermal paste. But just changing the thermal paste isn't going to do much. And I invite any of you to film it before and after to prove me wrong. When people say, I'll prove it to you, if you watch videos, they don't just change thermal paste. They also blow out all the dust from the fins of the radiators and the heat sinks. That can return back 30 degrees Celsius of difference or greater. And then they change the thermal paste. So you have this before where the computer's running hot, and then they blow out where they clear all the blockages from the radiators. They change the thermal paste and they go, look how much cooler it's running. Well, it would have run pretty much the same without changing the thermal paste, but they don't show it that way, do they? So a proper test would be, make sure all the radiators and airflow is flowing properly, make sure the water pump is flowing properly. You're going to see a pretty massive increase, or decrease rather, of temperature. Then when you've measured it, then change the thermal paste and measure it again. You don't be surprised if your temperature runs hotter because you took a good application of thermal paste and you made it worse. And in a case where you make it better, it'll make a difference of about, on an average, of 3 degrees. Do I do that the German way? How do the Germans? Yeah. I go, I'm American, and go like that. Germans do like that. Anyway, try it. See for yourself. Why am I so sort of gung-ho on this? Because it's an internet myth. It's just one of those things that people want to believe, and they will defend their ignorance. They will argue and fight for it. I'm not fighting, and I'm not arguing. I'm just telling you, this is very provable if you want to take the time, and if you want to show the evidence that suggests or proves I'm wrong, I would love to see that. But anybody who has opinions about it with no evidence, I've made videos and I've proven it. So I don't care if people want to not believe it or not. But Not that you're asking any of these questions, but this is always how they start, and this is always where they lead. And so I'm so trained by the internet to go ahead and just nip this in the bud right now. Nothing against you. I've just been through this for a long time. It's one of the reasons I started making the videos, because people will argue. So if I make a live video, unedited, in real time, how can you argue with the evidence unless you have evidence of your own? Do you know no one has ever once made evidence against me to prove me wrong in a video? They only leave it in comments and they say, bark, 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 ruff, 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 grrr, arf, arf, arf. Okay, well, I have evidence. Okay, so I don't know how to respond to your barking, but not that you are, but I mean the people who do that. But I am very, very interested in seeing your evidence. So just put it on camera. Let me see the before and after. Let me see what you did. And then you can teach me. I would appreciate that very much. Anyway, so why am I against it? Well, because sometimes people follow this internet myth and they break their computer. How can they break their computer? It's so simple. Yeah, that's what they thought too. But if you go on Reddit, go on the forums, there's plenty of people asking for help that starts with, I tried changing the thermal paste on my laptop and now my laptop doesn't work. So they took something that was working. Their mind was poisoned with mythical information online that they chose to believe. They did something they shouldn't have done, which now broke the computer that they don't have any money to fix. And then they go on Reddit and say, can anybody help me for the problem I created because I believed some rando online to do something I shouldn't have done. But it's their right if they want to do that. And I'm happy to charge them to fix it, but I'm not getting on Reddit telling them how to fix it for free. There's plenty of videos out there these days. You don't have to do that anymore. A common Google search or just ask Gemini would likely mean you never needed to go to Reddit to begin with. So that's all I need to know. But if they want me to fix it and they want to make an appointment and pay me, I'm all ears. Let's do it. Well, more than happy to help you. Anthony Remus said there's a lot of hype over thermal paste brands as well. The best ones versus mid-range are generally just 3 degrees Celsius difference. I try the best, but I also want the most repeatable results. In most cases, Anthony, the thermal paste doesn't actually make any difference at all. The room temperature varies, and there's a plus or minus 3 degree sort of variance in how accurate your temperature readings are. Since they're not all done in a temperature-controlled room, it can vary by plus or minus 3 degrees, which means that if there's a plus or minus 3 degree difference from one paste to another, you're within the tolerance of negligible difference, meaning 0. So why do people buy things like Cryonaut? Why are they so hyped up online? Cryonaut is expensive because, not because it cools better, because it doesn't dry out like other thermal pastes. So if you're the kind of person who just can't leave your computer alone, and you keep opening it and modifying it, you're allowed to do that. But if you're putting expensive Cryonaut on it, you're wasting your money. The benefit of Cryonaut is you put it on once and you're probably good for about 25 years. That's it. If you buy like the generics or the normal thermal paste, they do start to dry out. And when they get really, really dry, it absolutely can affect the efficacy of the heat transfer. So yeah, after 9 or 10 years, it's probably pretty dry. But if that was Cryonaut, it would still be fine. But even when thermal paste is dry, as long as the original application is undisturbed and was done correctly, it's probably still okay. In corporate America, in corporate IT, you do not change thermal paste. If you work at Intel, if you work at a utility company, if you work at the Ford Motor Company, if you work in any large industry as an IT support person, you will not be overclocking, you will not be installing liquid coolers, you will not be putting on RGB, you will not be changing thermal paste. Doing so will likely lead to you not working there anymore. So what you want to do at home for fun, knock yourself out. If you want to go to the soda fountain at Wendy's and suicide the, what do they call it, suicide drink, where you take a little of Coke and a little of Sprite and a little of lemonade and a little of Orange Crush and make your own drink, they're not doing that behind the counter. It's not on the board. If you did that to somebody at the drive-through window, you may not be working at the drive-through window anymore unless the customer specifically asked you to do it. In IT, the customer can ask you all day long to do stuff. That doesn't mean you have to do it. In fact, you could lose your job if you do, because you have to follow corporate policies. And the customers that you're helping, working for the same company, don't know the policies of the department you work in. They cannot dictate to you to open up a firewall because they want to, use Napster. That's a data room. You see what I'm getting at, right? They're an employee. Maybe the CEO, somebody like that, you'll bend the rules for. But it's funny because a lot of times employees are like, why does the IT department always say no? It's like their favorite word. That's not the IT department. That's the company policy that we're not allowed to do the things you want us to do because they're dangerous and you don't understand because you don't hold yourself, you're not in that level of responsibility and understand how the internet works and just how devastating opening up a port on the firewall can be to the entire corporation, to the point of you losing your job along with everybody else. That's why the rules are there. It's to keep everything operating and to ensure that everything's written down, so if something happens to one of the employees, they can be replaced and the company just doesn't go out of business because the one guy has the keys. There's other people with keys and all the keys are the same. Otherwise, if your key is different than mine, we can't open the same lock anymore. Then we're locked out and then we got to get a locksmith. All right, this thing started adding up as an analogy. So there has to be policies. If an individual at home follows those same policies as a corporate, that would be pretty smart. But if a corporate followed the same things a consumer did at home, they'd probably be out of business. Food for thought. Anthony Remus says he likes NTH2 thermal paste. Yeah, I mean, it's a fair price. It's not expensive. Unlike everything else that says Noctua. I don't know, do I have some of that here? I've got some leftover paste from Scythe. Yeah, here's some Noctua. It's cheap. You get a tube like this, it'll probably work on, I don't know, this one probably works on about 3 CPUs before you run out. It's not filled all the way up, it's only filled about there. But they're like $8. I'll tell you, one of my favorites is Arctic Silver MX. Do I have any? So here's the thing, I've got so much thermal compound. Well, some of these are just left over from coolers, like Scythe coolers. They give you enough thermal paste to cover the CPU 2 or 3 times. So I just collect them. If it starts coming out of the tube and it's all kind of clay-like, it's not very liquidy anymore or moist, I just chuck it in the trash and I grab another one. Those Noctuas probably came from Noctua coolers. Much like Scythe, they give you more than you need. You can see I don't need to buy any thermal paste. It'll be a while before I need any. And in fact, they might dry out before I get to them. I'll find out the day I need it, and that one's dry. It's like having a bunch of pens. And you're like, oh, that one doesn't write anymore. That one doesn't write. And eventually that I'm down to about 4 pens, and I'm like, oh, I should probably order some more pens. Now, thanks to Buster, we're not going to need pens for a while. Nobody order us pens, please. Buster made sure we've got enough pens for about 4 lifetimes. I joked about it, and Buster said, oh, you need some pens? Here's 130 of one, and here's 130 of another one. Here's some different colors. Thank you, Buster. Thank you. We're good on pens for a while. Let me pick up my mess. But yeah, that'll be the thing, right? I'll be pulling out a pen, it won't write. You think I'm going to try and spend much time scribbling around when I got 129 more? Chuck it in the trash, move to the next one. So that's what my thermal paste is like. And look, as long as the thermal paste is the same, you don't want to mix and match. So let's say this tube of Noctua runs dry, go to the next tube of Noctua. If that one runs dry, go to the next tube, or it's empty. Don't mix this one with this one. Don't blend them together. That's bad. That'll be bad, okay? So if I start with this one and I run out or it's dry, then I'll grab another one. If there's two of them and that's it, that's all I have, and I still don't have enough, wipe it clean, start with the next one I got a bunch of, or go online and order a new tube.
Right, you have an email.
I have an email. Is it about thermal paste?
You never know.
The internet is so fascinated with thermal paste. I think thermal paste is the most nonsense discussion in the enthusiast community, and is the probably most common discussion that the enthusiast community has, when it's the thing that matters the least in actual real world practicality. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But they talk about it like it's the most important thing. And so if you're watching all these enthusiast videos, it's easy to see how you're going to be misled into this false information of how important it is. It's not important. It really isn't. As long as you have thermal paste, as long as it's applied correctly, and your cooler isn't blocked with obstacles of dust or dust bunnies, and your fan is spinning properly, it's it. That's all there is. People are way overthinking this stuff online. Way overthinking it. At least that's my opinion. And what do I know? I've only been doing this since 1991 as a profession. So don't listen to me, just some crazy old man yelling at clouds. Clouds made of thermal paste. All right, emails. Once again, a thank you to our friend Buster, who sends an Amazon gift card. Buster watches us from Edinburgh. Our friend Mark Gaines sends us an Amazon gift card. Mark watches us from Northern Ireland. Sends us an Amazon gift card. He says, "This is my contribution for tonight's show." Right on. Thank you very much, Mark. Anthony Remus says, I ended up putting a metal tip on my thermal paste tubes. It screws in like a syringe and it makes things nice. I just like my weird habits. Did you used to be a cake decorator and you had like a piping bag and you make little roses with it? I know, Anthony. I tease him. Like brothers, you know, we tease. I'm not making fun of him. I'm teasing him. In a brotherly way, not in a bullying way. Couldn't miss out. But do you have like different designs on the tips? One's like a little star. I've been watching too many of Mara's baking shows. Mark Stevenson says, I'm from the UK. Well, welcome in. Cheers, Mark. Why is it bad to mix thermal paste? The reason is they're all a specific patented formula. So I'm trying to think of an example I could give you. It'd be like mixing diesel fuel and unleaded fuel into your car. Your car's not going to run very well. You have a material that's designed uniquely, let's say by Noctua, right? Where's my Noctua? Let me have something in my hands to hold. If you broke down the scientific composition of material that this is made from, okay, and you got a list of, it's got this much of this and this much of that, and then you did the same thing with, let's say, Scythe. Unless Scythe is buying this from Noctua and just putting a label on it, they're not anywhere close to the same. They're not even remotely going to be the same. There's probably 1,000 different ways and 1,000 different variations within the 1,000 ways. So 1,000 times 1,000 of not only different ingredients, different compounds, but different amounts of each compound and how it's blended. That's why some thermal compounds are white, some are gray, some thermal compounds may have a glittery look to them. They're all made differently. So if you mix two together that have a complete different recipe, then what you end up with is neither one working well, because they weren't, you're blending ingredients that don't go together, and your end result is likely going to be a thermal compound that's the worst possible thermal compound ever made, in the sense that the thermal compound's job is to, as efficiently as possible, pull the heat from the CPU and then onto the heatsink. How this company achieves it versus how this company achieves it are patented. If they copy each other, they will sue each other for patent infringement and demand royalties. So by law, they cannot use the same formula. It is a corporate secret, like the 11 herbs and spices in Kentucky Fried Chicken, or the formula to Coca-Cola. These are company secrets. This is not publicly available information. However, the only exception would be if Scythe reaches out to Noctua or whoever. It says, we would like to buy 1,000 pounds of your thermal paste from your factory, using the same tube. Everything's exactly the same. We just want you to change the wrapper on it. How much would you charge us? And then versus how much would it cost us to build our own factory and develop our own formula? It would be cheaper for Scythe to buy another manufacturer. Sort of like store brands. A lot of store brand goods are made by a brand name, but it's hard as a consumer to know which is which. Did the store brand actually get this from a brand name, or did the store brand actually just go to a cold packer, a co-packer, and develop their own? A lot of times that information is proprietary. It is not given out, because why would you give your competitors your secret sauce? Right? It's a secret sauce for a reason. If anybody could just make your secret sauce, why would they need to come to you? They love your secret sauce. So what ends up happening is you patent it, and then that way, if anybody does replicate your secret sauce, you sue the hell out of them, get paid. So mixing two things that are completely different, that do the same job, but the way they do it is different, will end up in neither one of them doing a good job at all. That's why. So again, I appreciate the question. Again, I don't understand why, even after I bring up the fact that there's this weird fascination with thermal paste, that I would think when you heard me say that, you'd go, oh, I never thought of it before. It's almost like I'm pouring fuel on a fire to keep talking about thermal paste that I said wasn't worth talking about. It's nonsense. And the reaction to that from so many of you is to keep talking about it. The more you talk about it, doesn't make it more important. It doesn't do anything. It's just noise. You can talk about it till the cows come home. I can talk about being a millionaire, but when I check my bank account, I'm still not a millionaire. Not even close. Maybe if I talk about it every day, I'm pretty sure that's not how you become a millionaire. I think you have to do more than just talk about it. I think you actually need to do something instead of say something. So for me personally, I'm done with the conversation of thermal paste because it's just nonsense. And if you don't believe me, make a video and prove me wrong. And until then, we'll pick up the discussion at that point. But nobody ever does it. Because again, they're going to see at most about a 3-degree difference, unless there was something wrong with their original install and it wasn't measured right to begin with. So that when they took the when they took the old thermal paste off and then they put the cooler back on, maybe they put the cooler on right and it wasn't on right before. And then they think it's the thermal paste that fixed it. What are you going to do? People are people. They want to believe what they want to believe. Their mind is made up. And I don't care. I mean, you can believe whatever you want to believe. It honestly doesn't make a difference to me. If you did that where in the places I've worked at in the corporations, you would be corrected or you would not have a job. You don't get to decide this stuff. You follow, just like being in the military, you follow your orders. You do a good job. You get promoted. You have a career. If you think you can outsmart everybody, hey, I'll be right behind you the minute you can show me results. Until then, talking about it, meaningless nonsense. I know because I still don't have $1 million. I could prove I don't have $1 million. Never have had, probably likely will not ever likely have. And no matter how much I talk about it, it's probably never going to change until I actually do something about it. That's all. Rocket science. Now somebody needs to put some thermal paste on my forehead. Getting a little hot. Talking about it. All right. Is there anything else other than thermal paste that's on your mind? Something that matters in reality? That would be a good discussion. And if I can help you, I'd love to help you. I'm not here to make fun of it. I think it's so absurd. It's like a Monty Python sketch. Al says he could tell a difference between branded cereal and supermarket cereal. Depends. Here's the thing, though. How foolish are you going to feel if you find out that the particular brand of cereal that you bought from, the store brand, that you thought tasted like a knockoff of Cheerios, was actually just Cheerios repackaged? How are you going to feel when you get that information? Now, I'm not saying that's the way it always is, but how would you know? Well, it tastes different. Okay, but that doesn't mean it's not Cheerios under a different name. There has to be evidence. Your feelings are not facts. The placebo effect could be taking effect, and it's not hurting anybody. You're welcome to believe what you want to believe, and if you believe you can taste the difference, then as far as you're concerned, you're right. As far as I'm concerned, show me. Show me the ingredients, and let's find out, if we can, where the store brand is actually made. I don't know how many cereal plants you think there are in the world, but it's not uncommon for the same plant that makes Cheerios, for example, I'm not saying Cheerios specifically, but whatever brand makes that cereal probably also has the factory capacity to continue making more under other brand names or store brand names. It's not uncommon. And if you believe they taste different, well, listen, let me tell you a little story and why I learned this lesson. I had a Whirlpool washing machine and I hated it. It was built terribly. It broke constantly. It was the worst quality washing machine I've ever experienced. And I couldn't wait to replace it. It's expensive to replace a washing machine. So when I finally had the money to replace it, you were damn sure I wasn't going to buy a Whirlpool. Okay. So I think I bought GE or something, and I'm happy. No problems. Better quality, better experience. Then I need a dishwasher. I sure as hell am not buying a Whirlpool dishwasher because of my experience with the Whirlpool washing machine. So I go to the Home Depot and I'm looking at the dishwashers. And they have a floor model, last one, really nice, stainless steel inside and out, just beautiful floor model, nothing wrong with it. The floor model was discounted. The floor model was made by KitchenAid. I've never owned a KitchenAid product. I know they're supposed to be nice. Let's try it. So I bought the floor model, literally put it in the back of my truck, brought it home, hooked it up, and it had a control board problem. but it was brand new. So I called KitchenAid, and they sent a technician out, and he said, let me order you a new control panel, and I'll be back in 3 days. And he did, and he put it on, and it works to this very day. That was, you know, maybe we did replace it because the drawers started to rust, I think. But the dishwashers worked fine for well over 10 years, probably 15 years, I think. And one day I'm looking online, and I'm trying to figure out, you know, these KitchenAid appliances are so much better. I wonder who makes them. Does anybody in the chat room want to tell me who makes KitchenAid appliances? I'll wait. Margain says Whirlpool. That is correct. Give that man a gold star. Hey, there's Frankie B. Frankie says probably Whirlpool. You got it. Now, how do you think I felt when I figured that out? I'm going to tell you how I felt. I felt like a complete idiot. Now, I'm a little more cautious before I make up my mind about stuff. I need evidence before I am going to stick my heels in the ground. I need proof. Until I have the proof, I'm not sure. I might feel like it's probably this, but I wouldn't be bold enough to make a statement unless I had the facts to back it up. And if I don't have the facts to back it up, I'm open-minded. I feel like it could be this, but I don't know for sure. Once I have the facts, now I know for sure. And then I will keep that in mind when thinking about the next thing I'm purchasing, if it's Whirlpool or KitchenAid. That they're both made by the same company, and I probably just had, for whatever reason, a bad model, or maybe the design has changed, or maybe the KitchenAid version of Whirlpool is like the Lexus of Toyota. You know, maybe it's slightly better, using the same parts probably, but just a little more elegant and maybe a little more refined. Maybe it's all an illusion. All I can tell you is I still don't want to buy a Whirlpool, and I still have very, very good things to say about KitchenAid. So I can't fight my experience, right? I had a bad experience with one, good experience with the other. In much way that you can have a cereal made by a store brand and think it's a different experience when it's the exact same thing, and you just don't know. It's hard to know anymore. When you go buy a frozen pizza at the grocery store, do you know how many brands DiGiorno makes? Do you have any idea? Or Red Baron, do you know how many brands? When you look at dishwashing detergent, do you know how many brands there actually are of dishwashing detergent? When you look at laundry detergent in the grocery store, there's an aisle of options made by about 3 companies. Oh, don't buy the Tide. I don't like that. Let's get Gain. I think Tide is Gain. Is it? I don't know. I'm speculating. Let me ask. See, now we have this wonderful thing in our pockets, and while we're there in the store, we don't have to wonder. We can get the answer directly. Who makes Tide and Gain laundry detergent? Let's see if they're the same company. Both Tide and Gain are made by Procter & Gamble. They are different products, but they're coming from the same place, man. It's like you go to buy a candle, right? And you're like, oh, this candle's better than that candle because it smells better. It was made by the same company in the same factory. It's the same candle with a different scent. Well, it's mostly laundry detergent, hand soap, Even regular soap, you know, anything like that. Procter and Gamble's all over that. There's a couple big companies, and they make the primary amount of products and give the consumer the illusion of choice. I suppose it's still choice, but they could just be a little more honest about it. If you make Coast, why isn't everything called Coast and just different models of Coast? Let's say this is antibacterial and this is Ocean Breeze. No, this is Ivory. Could it be Ivory Coast? No, consumers, they really want to latch onto a brand. It's just a human thing. And even though the brand is just sucking money out of your pocket, the consumer says, thank you, more please. Please take some more of my money. So they'll say, okay, they'll take more of your money. And you say, this company over here, they're not getting any of my money. And it's all going to the same company, and the consumer is just blissfully ignorant of it. Leave it alone. It's like telling them Santa Claus doesn't exist. Keep your mouth shut. Don't ruin their fun. They want to believe it. It makes them feel good. Okay, I'm not that guy, but you know, they have every right to live in a sense of illusion. They're not breaking any laws. They're happy. The manufacturer's happy. I should just mind my own business. Anthony says in his days of a forklift mechanic, the same meat company made patties for Jack in the Box and a couple other fast food burger joints, but made them at the customer's requirements. Yeah, they can modify the recipe, but it's the same factory and the same source of meat. But how they process it or what additives or seasoning they put on it is what varies one fast food place from another, for example. Yeah. If you go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and you're like, why does the chicken at Kentucky Fried Chicken taste different than other fried chicken places? It's because Kentucky Fried Chicken uses a certain breed of chicken. That's it. That's the secret. It's a different breed. You may like it, you may hate it, but it's because they're not just using whatever chicken's on sale. And I think that happened because they wanted a plump chicken, something they get a lot of meat out of. And I think there was like a world fair or county fair. I don't know. It's on the internet. You can believe it because it's on the internet. No, I mean, like, you know, the History Channel actually has a documentary about stuff like this. If you like stuff like that, watch the Mega Brands That Built America. That's airing a new season right now. And you can learn about the history of these companies and how they got so big. Big companies. And then they'll also do like the mega food brands that built America. And they'll talk about fast food places and Nabisco and how the National Biscuit Company became, you know, Nabisco. All that's explained and how we got to where we are today. I love TV like that. It's all well researched and documented, and it's not internet gossip. Verifiable. And it helps explain, if you're wondering, why is it like this? Well, because here's the way it started, and then here's what it has become. The history of Pepperidge Farm is fascinating. Little Debbie and just Chef Boyardee is a real guy. Yeah, is a real person, real Italian chef. Didn't spell his name like that, but that's how you pronounced it. If you're interested in that. Ben Laird says pedigreed chickens. Yeah, I guess you could say pedigreed chickens. Yeah. You know, it'd only take a second. What kind of chicken does KFC use? Do they use real chicken? There's a lot of false information. What breed of chicken? Maybe that should I? Well, Google's not giving me the answer. Let me try Gemini. What breed of chicken does KFC use? Saying KFC uses standard commercial broiler chickens, commercial hybrids, the birds sourced by major suppliers like Tyson Food and Pilgrim's Pride, that's not KFC. They say that those are standard broiler hybrids used across the fast food industry. No mutant chickens. A persistent urban legend claims that KFC uses genetically engineered or mutant birds, which allegedly led to them changing their name from Kentucky Fried Chicken to KFC. That's completely false. One of the reasons KFC changed their name, the second myth, is they didn't want the word fried in the name of the restaurant when Americans were moving more towards health-conscious options. But what nobody talks about is Kentucky decided if you want to use the name Kentucky, you have to pay us a licensing fee. And KFC didn't want to pay the licensing fee to use the word Kentucky to the state of Kentucky. That's probably the most logical reason why they changed the name, is they didn't want to pay the licensing fee. I don't know any other state that does that, but Kentucky did make that law. So KFC in the UK will source their chickens from a different place, but KFC in America, this isn't very specific. I need to be, unless it's changed, what chicken breed was chosen originally for KFC? Asking AI, you've got to phrase your question very carefully because it's going to give you the answers you're looking for. In the mid-20th century, rural Kentucky raised dual-purpose heavy breeds for both egg production and meat. There were barred Plymouth Rocks, often called barred rocks, Rhode Island Reds, New Hampshires, and white Plymouth Rocks. These traditional breeds were larger and slower growing than today's commercial poultry, featuring a firmer muscle structure, thicker skin, and a richer natural flavor. As Colonel Sanders franchised KFC in the 50s, American poultry underwent a fundamental shift following the 1948 Chicken of Tomorrow contest. That must be what I'm thinking of. Breeders crossed heavy-breasted Cornish game cocks with white Plymouth Rock hens, yielding fast-growing, heavy-breasted hybrid broilers. Colonel Sanders pioneered the use of a commercial pressure fryer. He invented it. In 1939, he could cook a chicken in 8 minutes instead of a half an hour. And he needed uniform size, tender texture, and a faster-growing chicken to keep up with demand, so he had a consistent quality product every time. However, it says, by the late 1950s and 60s, the company transitioned entirely to standard commercial broiler hybrids, the predecessors to today's Cobb and Ross lines of chicken breed, to maintain uniform piece sizes and consistent cooking times across all locations. See, that piece of information I didn't have, but it's still different. And you can tell when you go there and you taste it, it tastes different. And it's not the cooking or necessarily the seasoning. In fact, they opened a very famous, it's chicken and spaghetti from the Philippines. It's called Jollibee. And if you've never been to Jollibee, you're missing out on the best fried chicken I've ever had. Unfortunately, they've only opened one so far in Arizona, and it's over an hour away. Mara and I happened to be on the other side of town, and I said, oh, the Jollibee's around here, and it was still 20 minutes. But I thought, well, 20 minutes is still a lot less time than an hour. So we went over there, and I'm like, you know, this is probably all hype. Best chicken I've ever had. Bar none. I don't know how they do it. No idea. Pull up food reviews on YouTube of people eating a Jollibee. If somebody says, it's just hype, I don't get it, you know, to each their own. But I promise you, if there was a Jollibee next to me, I'd be eating there a lot more regularly. KFC doesn't taste good to me. Church's chicken doesn't taste good to me. Popeye's chicken doesn't taste good to me. It used to, but not anymore. My tastes have changed, or they're getting a little careless with quality. I don't know. But Jollibee, now granted, I've only eaten there once, and I was very skeptical. It's very tempting to get in the car and drive for an hour, but I'm not doing that for fried chicken. They'll eventually open some more Jollibees. They're all over the world, and they're just now coming to America. As for the spaghetti, I'd stay away from it, but the chicken is amazing. Anybody had Jollibee? Al says KFC uses Frankenstein chickens. You may not be wrong. Gary Tatum said he used to work at M&M Mars making M&Ms and Twix. I would be giving them my paycheck at the end of the week. I'll just take this and M&Ms and Twix bars I've been eating. Now, the Mars company is a fascinating story. There's a whole Mega Brands episode just on Mars. And that's, holy cow, what a fascinating story. And it starts with the invention of the Milky Way bar, father and son, that were sort of not getting along and reestablished. With the son's help, the company finally gained momentum, and the son said, you know, Dad, I think I've proven myself, you know. I'd like a little bit more of the revenue. And the father said, how about you just see the door you're out? Get the hell out. You've offended me. I built this company, you didn't. And the son's like, I created the Milky Way bar. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. You had the idea, but I made the candy bar. Okay. So the kid goes off to Europe and he works in a chocolate factory, and he's in, I don't know, he was in Switzerland. I think he was in England after that. His dad dies and he doesn't know about it for many, many months, and his dad did not leave him the company. Fast forward, the son makes enough money with his own candy company that he buys back his family candy company from the owners, and he owns it now. What a story. And I think their last name was 2 R's. Mars with 2 R's is their real last name. But they just called it Mars after the planet and named the candy bar the Milky Way. See the thinking here? I'm fascinated by that stuff. I just like, oh, that's how they got the name. Okay. That's why it's called Mars. It's their last name. Okay. Just spelled a little differently. Yeah, Joshua's corrected me. So there's the mega brands that built America, and then the food stuff is the food that built America. It's all on the History Channel, right? It's the History Channel. And there's seasons, like 7, 8 seasons of this stuff. And it is addictive. Like, I can't get enough of it. Terrell says, Carey, there is a Jollibee in Sterling Heights, Michigan. I think that's longer than an hour drive. Yeah, they're opening up all over the United States. But if you happen to see one near you, and in many countries as well, and you've never tried it and you like fried chicken, that's the best fried chicken I've ever had. I don't even think I can make it that good. And Bill's mentioning grilled chicken. I don't think anybody's offering grilled chicken at these fast food places, but you know, that was Kenny Rogers Roasters or Boston Market, and I guess there's still some Kenny Rogers Roasters around, but I haven't seen one. All the Boston markets seem to have closed up. And Chick-fil-A still sells like grilled nuggets. And I think there's a grilled chicken at Wendy's, a grilled chicken sandwich. But yeah, everybody breads it and fries it. So if you're trying to stay away from carbs and breading or gluten, Popeyes and Church's, Oh, Church's brought back their smokehouse. It's fried, but it's not breaded. And they only bring it back for a limited time. But it's like really tiny. It's good though. Jason says hello in the chat. Welcome in, Jason. Ben Laird said it's after 11 p.m. in Scotland. It's bedtime for him. Hey, Ben, have a good evening. Thanks for hanging out with us. Gary Tatum said you could eat all the chocolate you want when you work at the Mars factory, but after about a month, you don't even want to see chocolate. You know, they told me that about working at Domino's. I used to answer the phones and write the orders down. That was my job back in the day for a little while, year and a half or so. And sometimes there'd be pizzas that couldn't be delivered or they were made wrong, and they would just throw them on top of the we're an area where it stays warm and people can eat it because they're just going to throw it away so you can have it. And I'm like, it's cool, I get free pizza. And they're like, yeah, you'll get sick of that after a month. That is the longest month I've ever had because I've never... That was like 40 years ago. How old was I? That was 1980... 85 maybe? It had to be 85. Gonna get sick of that pizza. I'm still waiting any day now. I realize I'm not like most people. I get it. And he says his nearest Jollibee is 2 hours away. So what I do is I say, okay, if I make a little mental note. If I'm ever on that side of town, try to remember, stop by Jollibee. Even if I'm not hungry, bring it home, because I can always heat it up. That's a lot faster than driving back down again. So try and kill two birds with one stone. That's probably not a good analogy, talking about chicken. Mark Stevenson said, yeah, it's about 11 p.m. there in the UK as well. I guess you're on the same time zone there as Scotland from the looks of it. Joshua says, I'm surprised the History Channel is turning out something worth watching. Right? I'm with you. It's fantastic. They also have the Toys That Built America. They do a whole series of these, and they're really, really fascinating to know the history of why was Kenner selected to make the Star Wars toys? Who came up with the idea of He-Man and why? To make cartoons to sell product. So you make the product, then you make the cartoon, then the kids watch the cartoon, they want to buy the product. And for a while in the United States, that was illegal. But then they reverted the law and they said, I think it was Mattel was going up against Kenner. And they said, let's get to work. They learned their lesson from Kenner and Star Wars that there was millions of dollars, there were hundreds of millions of dollars that they were leaving on the table. And since there weren't any properties to buy, they just made one on they just made it up. How do I know that? Because the History Channel did a whole thing on it. It's fascinating. Rory says when he worked in a supermarket, the potato chips for the brand name potato chips and the store named potato chips were delivered in the same truck. How many potato chip factories do you think there are? It's pretty common. It's more common than most people believe, and they don't want to believe it. They want to live in this world that the store brand is cheaper and it's not as good. That's okay if they want to believe it. And in some cases, they're right, but it's not universal. And it may be nowhere close to universal once you start to uncover it and you see how big it is, how popular and common. You won't be surprised anymore. The History Channel lost me after How It's Made. Yeah, those How It's Made episodes they're a little sugar-coated and cut a lot of corners. They're very vague. And, you know, a lot of companies, I was surprised to even let them into the factory and see it at all, because like how they would print the M&M on an M&M was an industry secret. So for M&M to say, yeah, you can come in and see how we do it, they don't really show you how they do it. They kind of explain it, but they don't demonstrate it, or, you know, it gets processed with the M&M stamp through a machine, a specialized machine, and that's the explanation. Well, we already knew that. How do they do that without breaking the candy coating, without cracking it? So competitors to M&M couldn't figure this out. They, for years and years and years, the only one who had printing on an M&M, or the only one that had printing on a sugar-coated, candy-coated chocolate, was M&M. No one else could figure out how to do it without breaking it. That's one of those industry secrets. It's interesting stuff. You may not think about it eating the M&Ms. You may never think about how they printed the W and W. Look, they typoed this one. It's a W and W. Save it. It's a collector's item. Carey says, I know how it's done, and it's really cool. I don't know if they've ever exposed it or come clean about it. So, but back in the day, anyway, I can tell you for sure it was a guarded secret. Okay, you guys have, now you've all made me hungry. Do you have any technical questions for me today? Anything you want to know? I've got my Windows 11 installer updated. Yay! I'm going to put that back in the drawer. And the next time you see me install Windows on one of these computers, probably going to be a mini PC, you know I'll be using that we just created today. I don't need to test it because I've done this dozens and dozens and dozens of times, and I know it works. If you do something the same way over and over again, you'll always get the same results. It's only when you change it up that you need to double check yourself and verify. Yeah, Mars makes M&Ms. Do you know how M&Ms got their name? It's two people's last names. Do you know who those people are and who they used to work for? Neil wants to know, when's my next video? We always do a live video for our members only every Monday. So we'll be live tomorrow at 1 o'clock, but that video will only be watchable by the people who support us, because without them, we wouldn't even be here today to make this video for everyone. The reward for supporting us, part of the reward, is you get content nobody else will ever be able to see unless they become members. So for example, if you became a member, you'd be able to watch all the previous Monday shows. But if you never become a member, you'll never be able to watch them. Unless you know a member and you watch over their shoulder. But, you know, look, we're not sponsored here. So this stuff costs money to make this stuff, to make these videos. And it used to be years ago that you could make the money off YouTube ad revenue. Those days have long since gone. If we survived on ad revenue alone, we'd probably make $200 a month. I don't know about you. I couldn't even eat for $200 a month, let alone pay the mortgage and the electric bill, let alone get any content and accessories and tools. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. So it's through our members that support us, the community comes together, and that's what's financing this. And we're limited with what we can do based on the budget we have, but thankfully we've got a budget. I would like it to be a bigger budget, but I would probably always say that. You know what I mean? So we're sort of, our hands are tied with how often we can make the content and what content we've got, you know, to make, what we've got to make content from. And we wouldn't even have that if it wasn't for the viewers. This channel just wouldn't exist anymore. We wouldn't be able to afford it. So on Mondays, for the people that are the key component on why we exist today, we have dedicated videos just for them. And then every other day. So Wednesday, Friday, Sunday are all public videos. You're welcome to come and join us. It's only the Monday videos that are for our supporting members. Okay. We try and return the generosity back to our members. Out of 400,000 subscribers, there's only a handful of members. So they're rare, and that makes them very, very valuable. Keep that in mind from my perspective. And if you're not a member, we'll be back live Wednesday at 1 o'clock, Friday at 1 o'clock, and Sunday at 1 o'clock every week. Even on holidays, we're usually here doing this as well. So some exceptions, but usually that's the schedule. Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. And if you're a member, Monday too. So we hope you'll join us then. David says he spends $400 just in food every month. You'd be hungry. If you ran a YouTube channel off ad revenue and you had 400,000 subscribers like I do, you would be left hungry. But 6 years ago, you'd have been eating steak and lobster every day. This is just how it's changed. What can you do? I'm not complaining about it. I'm just making you aware. With transparency, this is a challenge that all content creators have right now. And most content creators solve it by letting a corporation fund them. But the cost of doing that is that you must speak on behalf of the corporation. You will say what they want you to say. You will keep your mouth shut about other things, or you ain't getting a check. So if you were a good boy, you'll get another check after that if you just keep doing what you're told to do. I don't want to do that. And it doesn't matter what I want to do. It matters if people care enough to help support that. And they do. And that's why I'm still here, thankfully. Otherwise, I just go back to getting more clients and my regular computer work, my managed service providing, turn all this off and just go back to doing what I was doing, which is go knock on some doors, say, hey, I'm a computer tech. I can maintain your network, your backups, your security, your antivirus. I can take care of everything for you. And you pay me for that. And that goes with regular maintenance visits. And then that's how I earn my living, doing computer maintenance, repairs, and services. If you're new here, we hope you're going to come back and join us again. We've enjoyed having you. We enjoy interacting with you. And you're the star of the show if you want to be. Thank you to Mara, of course. She creates the thumbnails for the channel. She does all the video descriptions. I still don't know what anybody was talking about with the link. Did you ever know what they were talking about?
Nope.
All the links work for you?
As far as I could.
Yeah, and they didn't say which link, but I guess you could just go click by click. And did you do that?
Yes.
And they all worked?
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe something on their end doesn't work. Anthony saying, hey, nice to hang out. Right on. Thank you, Anthony. Good. I'm glad you hung out with us. And if Doug's still out there, a shout out to our friend Doug and to all of our friends. Thank you guys so much. Again, to Mark Gaines, our friend Buster. Thank you for the Amazon gift cards. And to Essential Working Too Hard for renewing their membership, and Sean Skinner. Essential Working Too Hard renewed membership today, as did Sean Skinner. Andrew, thank you for your contribution. And Ben Laird, thank you for your super chat as well. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. All the links for everything we talked about are in our video notes. And at the end of every video, I always tell you guys, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. Our email address here on the screen. And that's also Mara's job. She stays on top of monitoring our inbox. And in most cases, she already knows all the answers. If it's something that involves me, she forwards it on to me. But that way, you're not waiting on me. You get an answer right away. You're not bothering us. Reach out anytime. We love to hear from you guys. If you want to share an experience, good or bad, we'd love to hear about it. We don't want you to share someone else's experience. We don't want to see somebody else's articles or somebody else's videos. If you wrote the article or you made the video, we absolutely want to see it. If you need help with something, we'll do our best to either provide you an answer or point out where you can find the answer. But yeah, it's always welcome. I am surprised that when I wasn't asking people to email me, I used to get more emails than I could answer. Of course, that was back in the day. Now things have slowed down. Things have gotten pretty slow. I'll be honest, we don't get emails very often, genuine emails from viewers. We get a lot of companies spamming us. That's every day. But genuine emails from viewers very rarely come in, so you don't have to worry about, adding to a burden. Things have been very, very slow. Don't let that stop you. We love hearing from you. With that, that's going to wrap it up. We'll look forward to seeing everybody again on Wednesday, but on the members, we'll see you tomorrow, as you well know. And until then, bye for now.